Jeff, thank you so much for joining me on Culture Chat today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm very excited to talk about all the fun events that are coming up right here in Orlando. So every year, for how long have we been having the Come Out with Pride celebrations?
This is going to be our 14th year.
Wow, 14 years. Oh my gosh. And how long have you been involved with it?
I have been involved for just a little over 3 years.
Okay. And so, but you've been in Orlando for quite a while.
Actually, just about 3 years as well.
Oh, really?
I actually got involved with Pride about a week or two before I moved out here.
Okay, as soon as you got here, you're like, I'm in.
I'm jumping in.
I'm jumping in. Oh my goodness. And then like from there, it's pretty much escalated because you have a lot of responsibility now.
Hey, that's what they tell me. Yeah.
So let's just jump in right away and talk about the event. And then, I do want to know a little bit about your background. But so the event is starting October 8th this year.
Yes, we're doing a full week of events. We've never done something this extravagant before. So in the past, we've just had a couple of events leading up to our big event, which is always on the Saturday that's closest to National Coming Out Day, hence Come Out with Pride. But this year, we want to really celebrate the community and do something that's starting on Monday and leading all the way up through the week. We're going to have a 5K, which is something that we've had in the past, and we're bringing it back and really inviting a lot of people to come and celebrate and celebrate their spirit. It's a drag race 5K.
Oh,
so
nice.
you don't have to come in drag, but there's going to be some interesting costumes.
Very festive.
Very festive. You're going to love it. Tuesday, we're doing a film screening.
Okay.
It's an LGBTQ film called Mar. It's a Portuguese film.
Okay.
So we're reaching out to different communities. It's a beautiful short film. It's won several awards at different movie film festivals. So we're really proud to bring in the director. He's going to be there. It's the U.S. premiere of this movie,
excellent.
actually. So that is a great event, and people will be able to come, chat with the director, and see a really great, positive film.
Oh, amazing.
On Wednesday, so this is a little bit of history. Like I said, I've been here for 3 years,
Yes.
so wasn't here during the 90s, but if you were, there was an amazing bar and club called The Edge.
Yes, I remember The Edge. Now I'm going to date myself here. I have been to The Edge before. Yes.
So you remember how crazy and wild some of the stories were that came out of that place. So there was on one of the nights, it was kind of the LGBT, it was kind of like the
theme
service
night,
industry night,
yeah.
but it was when a lot of the LGBT community would come out, and it was their night. We're bringing that back for one night, and it's going to be Wednesday night. We're calling it House of Pride.
Okay.
And we're just going to bring a lot of that atmosphere back. So whether you remember The Edge and had such
bring your glow sticks.
Bring your glow sticks, bring your, memorabilia. But we also want, the young generation to come check this out and kind of, again, we're trying to bridge different communities.
Yeah.
We want, whether you're young, you're old, we can all celebrate, we can all dance and have a great time. One of the cool things that we're doing is, did you watch Pose at all?
I didn't.
Watch that show. It's amazing. Kind of a story about the New York City 1980s ballroom culture.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of the things, if you ever watched RuPaul's Drag Race, some of the things that you see on the show and the terminology and some of the catchphrases and things actually emerged out of that culture.
Okay.
So this is kind of a historical look at it. And you have different, they're called houses. They're people who maybe are ostracized in society, but they come together, form a house, and there's different people of the household, and they get and have this ball culture where the houses all come together, they compete, they dress up, they have different talent competitions essentially, and it's just a lot of fun and a lot of it's the houses are competing, and it's really just fantastic way to have that community. So we're bringing a little bit of that. And some of the Orlando houses to be there, part of the entertainment. And you remember Madonna's Vogue video?
Of course.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't? Black and white, strike the pose. Yeah.
So one of the main founders of kind of the ball culture, his name was Jose Extravaganza. He is part of the House of Extravaganza, and he is going to be joining us. He was one of the lead choreographers and actors in that video. So there may be a little bit of Vogue recreation.
A little Vogue recreation. Oh, I like it. I like it. Where is that going to be located?
That's going to be at the Ace Cafe, which is where the Edge club used to
Right,
be.
because I was going to ask you also for that Edge quote unquote night, is that going to also be at the Ice Cafe or? Okay, okay, so it's all, oh wow, it's really
there.
nostalgic.
Yeah.
Downtown Orlando. Okay.
Yep.
All right, excellent. All right,
Yep.
moving on in the schedule. This is exciting.
We've got a lot. So Thursday, we're doing our weekend launch party. So in Thornton Park, that area, there's a location called the Veranda. It's this beautiful row of kind of like homes and little office buildings. We have our entire area right there where we have entertainment. We're bringing in Frenchie Davis. She was a contestant on The Voice. Amazing, amazing voice. So she's going to be headlining that along with a couple of other entertainers. But one of the great things about this event, it's the same night as the Thornton Park Wine Walk. So people who are coming to that event can pop into ours.
Very
the event's
nice.
free to come in and just check things out. So again, kind of trying to bring different communities together.
Yeah.
People who are out and exploring. Hey, come on and check this out. See some amazing entertainment and get a sense of what's going to be coming up on over the weekend. Friday night, we have our block party. It's moving a little bit to Stonewall Bar. Just that's right next to the new soccer stadium.
Oh wow, okay.
So they're going to close some streets, have some of the nonprofits vending outside, but they're also going to have Luciana. She is a fantastic Latin performer headlining, and it's just a great time to come out. A lot of energy. Each of the different bars within Stonewall, there's like a downstairs bar, an upstairs rooftop patio, a backstairs outdoor bar. Each of those is going to have a different DJ, so all kind of a different scene for people.
Right, something for everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And then Saturday.
It's the big day.
The big day. Yes. I don't know where to begin. There's so much to talk about. So the big thing always is our parade.
Yeah.
That starts at 4 o'clock. Last year, I think we had probably about 160,000+ people around the
It has really
Lake
grown
Eola.
over the years.
Absolutely. And it's so much fun to just stand out there and see all these wonderful floats and groups, organizations. Our theme we had last year and we're continuing it this year is Keep Dancing Orlando. So we want the parade to be uplifting. We want people to watch it and feel energized and feel like they're having a good time. So even though we're going to have, obviously it's election year, and there's going to be maybe a little bit more in terms of some of the politicians who are going to be part of the parade and things like that. It's still going to be very festive. It's still going to be everyone's just having a good time.
Yeah, well, I mean, not to be stereotypical, not all politicians are downers and
That's
stiff.
true. That's
Because,
true.
like I said earlier to you, I've had an amazing Commissioner Sheehan on the show, and she's always like dressed to impress, and I always tell her she's got the best style, and she will definitely obviously be out there, and she's just a lot of fun. And so I think that's what it's about, is embracing just the community and just having fun and finding a connection across, like you said, people who doesn't love wine, if you're out having wine, why not go and hear some amazing entertainment? And in general, like you've been doing it for 3 years, and I know that this has been something very close to Central Florida, like you said, back in the Edge service industry nights, typically, like you said, a lot of the LGBTQ community would come out on that night. Is that really because that basically that community really works in service a lot? Is that like very common? Is that why that was like kind of at over?
A lot of the tourist industry, theme park industry,
Disney.
hotels, absolutely. It's just there's a lot of people and part of that community there, and continues to this day, absolutely.
Yeah, and so like we've kind of seen that build, like you said, since this has been, you said 14 years? 14 years, and you had a record, I think 160 last year, and probably it's going to be even bigger this year, especially. Yeah, well, I mean, and especially I think because like there is social media and there's just much more exposure, and there's also people that are willing to kind of share a little bit more in this last several years than earlier, and I think it's really amazing and wonderful. And like you said, to me, it just sounds like a big party, and so why not extend it to be almost a week?
It's honestly, I would say, there is a party aspect.
Yes.
People are coming out to have a good time. But I think part of the reason why, part of the formula for our success is it's not just a party.
Yeah.
It's not just about, coming out and drinking or seeing some entertainment. And now we're going to have some fantastic entertainment.
Right.
I hope to get to some of that later. But our key message is Pride, since its inception almost 50 years ago in New York City with Stonewall, it's been about fighting for the LGBTQ community's rights. And even though I think a lot of people assumed that after the marriage equality ruling in 2015 that everything's fine, we don't have to fight for anything anymore. I think a lot of people felt that. That's not the case. There's still a lot of laws that allow discrimination.
Yep.
People can still get fired. They can get kicked out of their homes for being gay. There is still a huge HIV and health epidemic, especially in Orlando and around Florida. We're one of the worst in the country. There's homelessness issues. The trans community is under attack. 20-some murders already this year.
Yes.
And it keeps getting worse. So there's a lot of things going on in the community, and we want people to not just come and have a good time, but we want to educate them. We want them to know whether you're LGBTQ or an ally. And actually, our allied, community, we have probably about 25% of our total audience is straight allies. We want people to leave with some more knowledge, that they know these are the things that are going on. And we want to be able to point them in the direction of the different organizations and groups around town that are doing a lot of the work to change these laws and fight for these rights. So whether they can donate money, volunteer, we want people to take action. That's a big component of our pride. And I think if people feel that, one, they're coming to have a good time, but also feel like they're doing something positive for their community, that's what people keep coming back for. And I think that's something that symbolizes Orlando's pride and what makes us a little different.
Yeah, so well said. I definitely want to address so many things that you said in there, because that was the thing. Yes, it's obviously a really fun week, and now it's extended because I think you're adding so many new components. But I was going to ask you, like, in terms of the education part, like, you have speakers, I guess, that kind of come out and talk about different programs that are available or different donation opportunities.
So there's an initiative we have called Pride Takes Action. For the last couple of years, it's been kind of guiding people towards some of the nonprofits in our community. So say like the One Pulse Foundation, there's Impulse Group, there's Hope and Help, the LGBT Center, all these different organizations that are really playing a positive impact in the community. Leading people towards, a lot of them have booths in our marketplace, and letting people know these are some of the organizations that are looking for help. This year we're taking that a step further. We're still doing that, but we're also going to have a large tent for people to congregate in. It's going to be really comfortable, air conditioned, but there's going to be a couple of different screens, and we're going to have some presentations, kind of on loop, almost like you're going into a museum and watching one of those rooms, but they're going to be able to learn about the community. One of the screens is going to be talking about maybe just terminology, things, the words that describe the community and maybe what people in the community.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. It's like, I've had so many guests on the show, and whether it's an ethnic background, I'm like, okay, because I had someone on about Ramadan, and I was like, all right, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I mean, and I think the thing is, people are like a little bit on eggshells. Like, there's like so much, like, I'm not really quite sure. Like, I have my cousin, I'm asking him, I'm like, okay, is it LGBT or LGBTQ or which one? And he's like, you know what? It depends on who you're talking to. And it's just so funny because you say that, and I think people are afraid to ask the question sometimes. And so it's really great that you have some, just like you said, very baseline, like, it's okay. And like, I had Haley Snow on, and of course she's a transgender woman, and she went over like the she, her, and how you like to be referred to. And I've seen it even more so on like emails now, like at the bottom, like, your pronouns and everything. And so I think that type of education is actually like very connective for people that maybe feel embarrassed, and I think you realize, like, me being Asian, I'm like, I'm not going to be offended if you guess I'm from Korea or Japan and I'm Chinese, but ask me and then I'll tell you, so I think it's the same for your community. It's like people get a little bit like, well, I'm not really sure what I'm allowed to ask. And I think that something like this is really great because you get a chance to actually be around everybody up close and personal and just realize, like, oh, they're just humans like me. And I can actually just ask regular questions like I would a friend I've known forever. And there's just less tension, I think, and it's great. And if you add alcohol to anything, everybody's having a good time. Everyone's happy. So during that wine night anyways, but I did want to talk about some of the things you said specific to Orlando that, I have been reading these headlines, of course, about, like you said, the transgender community being under attack, and specifically in Florida also, there's been a lot of murders. And Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And maybe you could shed some light on that, because like I said, I really haven't done extensive research on like what's happening, why it's happening, and obviously what we can all do. I don't know what we can do, but like what's going on with that?
Fear. I think that that is the basis for, there's groups of people who, feel threatened, that their way of life is changing. We have the bathroom issues, public places wanting to maybe make gender neutral, or schools wanting to allow trans students to use the bathroom of their choice. And people feel that there's going to be all these problems that, in the end, I think research has shown those problems aren't real.
Right.
They're all just kind of, people want
in the head, in
people
someone's
make
head.
it up.
Yeah.
So it's that constant education and that constant trying to get people to empathize, get people to meet people in the community, in the trans community, and see that they're real people that can have amazing jobs, amazing careers, do anything just as any other person can, any other cisgender person can. I liken it back to kind of the gay rights fight years ago, when people, it was illegal to be a homosexual, and people would, they'd be ostracized by society. Families would stop talking to gay family members. But over time, as I think people got to know more and more people, whether they were family, friends, and got to know them for actual human beings who had stories, who loved other people. Those are the kind of stories that get shared, and people, slowly come to realize, all right, maybe my thinking wasn't correct, and maybe I want to bridge that gap a little bit more. So we have a lot of work to do, and I think that's a lot of what some of our Pride events, not just ours, but Pride events all over the world, are really trying to help focus on, is making sure that those stories are shared. Going back to that Pride Takes Action tent that we're having, another one of those screens is going to be transgender people from the Orlando community holding up signs, kind of helping to share their stories. So people who are going to be able to go in there, they're going to see, all right, these are people, real people with real problems, but real energy and real love. And slowly, we're knowing nothing's going to happen overnight, but we need to make some progress. So
and I think it's really amazing, because that is the point. Like, if you just look back, it really wasn't that long ago that everyone was like, in the closet, ostracized. Like you were. There was even more fear. I mean, and thank goodness for the last decade where, acceptance is getting there, but by no means are we where we should be or where we want to be. Like you said, though, it's like one step at a time. But I think every story that's told, every reminder, and every human contact is like so important.
One thing we were really proud of last year at our event in October was our Grand Marshal was Rebecca Storazek. She was the Orange County Sheriff's the first transgender deputy.
Oh, okay.
And she had just come out as a transgender, I believe, earlier in the year or the year before. It was after Pulse happened, so she kind of, that was her story coming out. And, it showed that this is a person who is actually risking her life day in and day out.
Yeah.
And, these are the kind of people that we want to have in our society. I mean, that we don't want to ostracize them. We don't want to push them away. We want to welcome them with open arms, because they can do so many amazing things, and we want to be able to promote them and showcase them and make a really great society.
Yeah, I think you're right, though. Fear is like the big thing, because I mean, what you just talked about in terms of being a deputy, I mean, we can also take that to military, right? It's like, I didn't sign up to serve and go fight for our country and like actually be, in service. And so to me, like, if anyone's willing to do that and step up, there should be no question.
Exactly.
There should be no question. Like, I'm like, thank goodness, because we need people who are willing to put their lives on the line, either as a first responder or in the military and all of that. And so I never understood that. But again, it's how you grow up, who you're around, what your influence, what you hear, right? And so I think it is great that, we're able to share and everything. And so for you, I know earlier we were talking off air, you grew up in New York and then you moved to Ohio. And, when you told me all that, I was like, oh, Ohio to me seems like kind of, it's the Bible Belt, right? So like there's like that stigma, oh, well, a lot of people are a little more closed-minded. I mean, for you, what was your journey like in terms of, the challenges that you might have faced personally?
Well, I did come out a little later in life, a single child and a single mom household, so I always sometimes get the questions. Well, when am I going to get grandkids? And those kinds of things. And
Yes.
I had a number of reasons why it took me a while to come out. But when I eventually did, one of the things that I wanted to do was, all right, I want to feel like I'm doing something for the community. And one of the things I think that actually led me to a lot of the work that I'm doing now. So back in 2014, there was the gay games that were held in Cleveland, Akron, Ohio. So the gay games, it's almost kind of like a gay Olympics. That's what it's almost commonly referred to as. Happens every 4 years.
Okay.
And it's been in major cities like San Francisco, New York City, Cologne, Germany, Sydney, Australia. So when about 4 years before, like 2010, when they were voting on the city, it was between Cleveland and a couple of other major cities. Cleveland got it.
Oh,
and
wow.
I think a lot of people saw that as an opportunity that this is part of the Midwest. This is not a safe city. If this had been in New York or a big city like that, it would have been just another event on another weekend. But here was something where if you were able to have an event like this and showcase it to the Midwest folks, you would have a real opportunity to start changing some hearts and minds. And being part of that group, I was volunteering with the marketing department for about 3 years there, helping out with some of the messaging, and then certainly seeing the whole 10-day festival come together. You got people from, I think it was 45 different countries, almost every single state, all ending up in that region. And seeing some of the amazing things that the community ended up doing. You walked around downtown, there were rainbow flags in every business, storefront, window. I heard stories about athletes who had just won a medal. They got on a bus, just a regular bus, and then the whole bus would start clapping and cheering for them. That was something that, I think we weren't sure if it was going to happen. And then when it finally did, we said, this is awesome. This is what, people are really about. And a lot of people actually said it was probably the best gay games that they had seen, just in terms of the welcoming attitude. And it was that led me to kind of feel that impact that these kinds of events can have. Of, we're not just putting something on for our community, but we're really trying to branch out and have that understanding between our different cultures, between people who may be on the fence about, well, I don't quite understand it. We want that understanding. We know nothing's going to change overnight again, but the more we do, the more we act, the more those walls keep coming down, and the more that we're able to change legislation and improve everyone's life.
I am not by any means really knowledgeable about which legislations have passed and where we're at, but I do know that we have had some wins, like you said, marriage equality. But the last time I spoke to Commissioner Sheehan, she was also telling me that, there's still so much inequality, especially with jobs. The woman that I interviewed was telling me that she, pretty much wasn't comfortable coming out at work because she felt like she might lose her job. So, so in terms of, like you said, it's a midterm year, there are things maybe not on the bill ready to go now, but these are things that we're definitely working on. What are some of the top things that you think need to change immediately or should have been obviously we're really pushing for right now?
Absolutely, discrimination. So only 60% of Floridians are under any kind of protection from discrimination in the workplace and in housing. Those are typically your big metro areas, but 40% don't. That's a huge number. When in a state of how many tens of millions, this is a huge number. Maybe not tens of millions.
No, but it's cool. I don't know my population or my census info. I'd have to Google that, but
that number needs to change. And we need legislators who are going to really throw their support behind some of the bills that are out there to make anti-discrimination statewide. So there's been bills that have been set in the House and in the Senate. They've gotten more and more supporters every year, but not to the point where the leadership is allowing it to come up for a vote. And that's kind of a shame that it's not even able to be voted on. So we need people in there who are going to do the right thing, at least let it come up for a vote, and hopefully let's see some positive action.
Yeah, have discussion.
Yeah, exactly. Because again, why would you want discrimination?
Right.
Of any kind.
Of any kind, absolutely. Yeah. And do you feel like after, especially for Orlando, like I typically feel like I live in a semi-bubble. Like when I go to New York or something, I'm like, oh, it's so refreshing to be up here because you feel very surrounded by a lot of open-mindedness. And in Florida, you can have, like you said, like a percentage of where you are. If you move certain, ways left or right or up or down, like you start to feel like, am I even in the United States? So, like the thought process and the clothes, like you said, those are the people that are voting against all of these things or want discrimination because they're afraid. They're afraid it's going to affect them and everything, right? And so, but do you feel like after Pulse especially that people's minds might have changed? Because I just saw this amazing community that I was a little bit pessimistic about, honestly. I was always like, oh, nobody cares and anything. And when I saw like all the support and just like worldwide support, but I mean, do you feel like that was something pivotal for the Central Florida community, but maybe even Florida? Do you think that helped in terms of opening people's eyes?
It really has. I actually think that because of everything that's happened, Orlando has become kind of a lightning rod for positive change in the LGBTQ community. We still have a lot of people who are dedicating day in and day out for, making some positive change. One of the groups that came together that actually was formed after Pulse is a group called the One Orlando Alliance. So we have, I don't know, probably about 30, 40 some different nonprofit groups that have all been kind of doing their own thing over the years, whether it's health related or maybe business related, but, their own avenues in the LGBTQ community. After Pulse happened, all of those organizations, all of those community leaders got together in a room and we sat down and we said, what do we need to do to figure out our communications, to make sure that if you hear that this person needs assistance, we can put it out there so that this group is able to get to it because they're the best and they have the resources needed to help. So having that come together and build those bridges and making it so that if people needed help, there was a conduit for that to happen and expedite all that assistance. That was phenomenal, and that's still going on today and growing. We kind of see that as being a model, hopefully, for other cities and bringing different organizations together. But going back to just the general population, you had people, who stood in line for 10 hours to donate blood.
Yeah.
You heard stories like that constantly. People donating, people giving money. Obviously, it kind of dies down over time, but you can't. It's still a part of our fabric. It's still part of our history, and I think that you look at the temporary memorial that's there. Anytime you pass by there's people who are standing outside. Memorial is just watching it.
And there's still always things being like left there, and there's still so much memorabilia and like things that people are honoring those that have passed.
Exactly. So it's still a battle. There's still a lot of people who, especially in today's political climate, feel that, we can discriminate or we don't have to support certain communities. So it's a tough fight, but that's why we need to keep engaging. We can't just stay inside of our bubble. And hopefully we, as a community, don't necessarily push out the arguments that we don't like. There's people who, may hate the LGBTQ community or who have their own beliefs that we don't agree with. But we have to have a conversation. We can't just put up a wall and expect that things are going to magically change one day. We have to engage. We have to share those stories, hopefully get them to see us as human beings and empathize. And hopefully we can kind of see and find that common ground. Once we do that, then I think we're really going to see some positive change happening.
Yeah, I mean, and your event obviously Come Out with Pride is kind of a testament to that, where it's been growing every year, not fizzling out and having less and less support. Has there been kind of an example, since you've been there on the board for 3 years now? I mean, things that you've really, it's a long weekend. You probably start planning as soon as it ends, but is there like a moment right after any of the events that you've hosted in the last few years where, you just have like a pivotal, like, this is why I keep going, maybe there's a specific example or person or something that's like really connective for you that kind of, because it's exhaustive to run these events. I mean, I know obviously you've expressed your passion for all of it, the education, but I mean, what have been some of the positive things that have come out of it?
Well, sometimes here, especially on social media, afterwards, people will post stories or share moments. Maybe that's the day that, someone brought their family and then came out and found that, there was acceptance and love, and, the families see the type of, community and support that's out there, and they say, all right, this is awesome. And, seeing things like that, I think is what makes every bit worth it. When you see people who are going and talking and getting engaged and, really focusing on what can I do that's going to make a difference. Finding that, I think there was one year we heard, a couple thousand people signed up to become volunteers at some of these different organizations. That's a testament to just the community and everything that they're trying to be engaged in to make this community better.
Yeah. And so kind of backtracking now with your travels, I love the Gay Olympics, by the way. I mean, I'm just like, I'm imagining it being for some reason a lot more fun than just like regular events, like of sporting events or whatever, because they could be kind of stiff. And except for hockey's a little crazy. I've only been to a couple games, but I'm like, everyone's drunk around you, everyone's crazy. But I mean, I feel like there's just like just a lot more spirit, at some of these parades and everything. So why did you move to Florida? Because that's been a few years now, and we're talking off air, and I know that you got married at Typhoon Lagoon. Yes. So, I mean, did you move to Orlando because you're like, I just need to be closer to Disney, or no, I'm just kidding.
Yes. Well, I've always been, my husband and I, we are both kind of theme park aficionados, especially Disney.
Okay.
My actual full-time job, I work with the theme park industry.
Okay.
Kind of. So it's always been kind of not just career focused, but we just love the weather and the sun, and
coming from New York and Ohio,
after 30-some years of snow and cold and gray skies, we're like, it's time for a change.
Yeah.
We even have 2 husky lab dogs at home.
Okay.
And there were 2 winters where even they were like, no, it's too
really?
cold outside. We can't deal with this. I'm like, okay, all right, this is it. But no, we ended up getting married. It was before the Supreme Court decision came out, so it was on still at that time a state-by-state basis.
Okay.
So technically we got our marriage certificate in New York, where it was the closest state where it was legal. But we knew we wanted a beach wedding. We knew we wanted a Disney wedding. And
there it is. Disney makes dreams come true.
They certainly did. And one of the very first things that we did after we had met, we had maybe about 2 or 3 months after we met, we did a 10-day road trip down to Florida from Ohio, and didn't agree that whole time. So I was like, all right, we know this is pretty good. But our very first stop where we at Disney was at Typhoon Lagoon.
Oh, okay.
So they have a beautiful beach, and everything that day for our wedding was just simply, to quote Disney, magical.
Magical. Oh my gosh, I love it. I know. Well, I mean, that's my kind of beach, really. It's like a controlled environment. There's no sharks in the water. Everything's kind of cleaner. There's showers nearby. It's my kind of beach anyway. But that's incredible. And so. So you did a 10-day trip, but then you were like, I just want to live here, and just kind of.
We got married, and then I think it was a couple weeks later, we were just in the car having a conversation, and we said, we've been kind of tossing around the idea of moving to Florida for a while. Let's just do it. Let's just do it.
Yes.
And so
we're happy to have you, because now you're like heading out the board with the Come Out with Pride parade and the events, and it's not just the parade anymore. I think before it used to just be the parade, really, right? Back in the day, early days.
And, when it started in 2005.
Yeah.
That was maybe about 10,000 people. Wasn't even at Lake Eola, but it was. It's been growing every single year with leaps and bounds. But like I said, I've been here for 3 years, and when Pulse happened in 2016, I had only been here for maybe about 11 months by that point, and seeing the community come together so strongly and so passionately. It did affect me, and I said, even though I've moved from like Buffalo and then Rochester and then a couple places in Ohio, I said in this short period of time, Orlando, this is my home, and it feels more of a home than anywhere else that I've ever been. Just that connectedness with the community and seeing such positive, amazing things coming out of so many community leaders here and people who just want to do the right thing. That kind of also impacted and changed some of our mission and what we want to do with Pride. And I think just seeing so many, amazing things that's really impacted me. And I want to do more. I see so many community leaders who have dedicated, their careers and their time to making things better. That impacts and fuels me. And so I want to do what I can and hopefully impact others and see other people volunteer. It's addictive. It really is.
Yeah, doing good. It makes you feel good. But I do want to bring that point up. A lot of people don't realize, like, a lot of this is volunteer based. A lot of these organizations, everyone has a quote unquote full-time job, and then they have a second full-time job, because this is not just like a 1 hour a week kind of thing. I mean, it is very involved, and it's your time, your free time, your extra time away from your loved ones, your family, your friend. I mean, it's a sacrifice.
It really is.
But it's obviously a sacrifice worth making.
It is. There are times when I wish I could certainly just spend more time with my husband watching TV. I haven't watched TV in I don't know how long. Or more days at Food and Wine at Disney. But
you still have time. Because they keep extending it.
That's right.
Yes. Like I told you, we work with Disney a lot, so I kind of know their schedule. And then but you have some time. You should definitely take a day to do that, though.
There will be.
You've earned it.
After Pride's over,
Yes.
there'll be lots of Food and Wine. But again, I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't think it was worth every single moment. Again, going and seeing the crowds that day and just the smiles on their faces and just the joy and the love and the positive stories that you hear afterwards, it really does make every single moment worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, when I've been in Orlando most of my life, so I remember the parades, and I actually used to think it was a Disney parade because so many people had like Mickey Mouse on stuff, and Mickey Mouse at the Rainbow, and so I actually back in the 2005 era, I used to think like, oh, Disney puts this on, that's so awesome, and then people were like, no, they just like love Disney, and I was like, oh, okay. But they're also Disney is a very supportive, supportive company, because like I said, we do get to work there quite a bit, and we do shows and things like that, and I know that they're very supportive of the LGBTQ
Well, I'll take that
community.
as a positive testament to our parade as being Disney quality.
Yes, all right. And so the fun thing is, since you're such a big Disney fan, like we're sitting in here in my cultural center, and a few days ago we had another guest on, and they're like, oh, you have a lot of like Disney stuff. I'm like, no, if you actually pay attention, we only have one Disney thing, and that's Mulan. And the reason is because I was actually the model, and I did the martial arts and stuff for the film and worked with the animators for Mulan. So I thought you'd like that, being a big Disney fan.
Yes. That's fantastic.
Yes.
Get your autograph.
No, it was a long time ago, even before 2005. So, but it is a lot of fun, and I love that. We can like celebrate some of the bigger businesses and corporate even being involved and not being afraid to like embrace the community and kind of show support, because you kind of find that a lot where people want to be private about it, like, oh yeah, no, I'm totally all about it, but I can't show up there and be seen, or you get these just not proud to be able to show up and come out with pride. So I think each year, hopefully more and more people come out and share and celebrate and learn and just have respect for one another. And I think it's a really great event. And, it's shamefully, like I told you, every October is my travel time, but because you've extended the times, I'm definitely going to come out to one of the events this year. Like I'm very excited about it. So, but Jeff, thank you so much for sharing about the event and all that it means to you, but all that it means to not just the Orlando community, but I think internationally, it's just really important to constantly keep the momentum going. And like you said, having these conversations, but, and very quickly, Come Out with Pride is, like you said, not just Orlando. Like it's there's other places all around
different
the world.
cities will have different pride events. So I definitely encourage people to go and explore, and the more pride, the merrier. It's so much fun, and you see different communities, and it's all about just bringing people together.
Yeah.
We want people to come out, be their authentic selves.
Yeah.
Be true to yourself, and that's what matters. That's what counts.
Awesome. Very well said. Well, thank you again for being a guest on Culture Chat.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening to Culture Chat, and hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please subscribe and rate my podcast. Feel free to leave me suggestions or send an email to mimi@culturechatpodcast.com, or follow me on social media at Sifu Mimi Chan on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook.